There was a time when the world wasn't ending. Actually, there were a lot of times like that, but they were boring. I may not have been around during the 80s, and only my knowledge is neon signs, pot, awful slashers, and roller skates. But for others, life wasn't that simple. It was more like an old dial up connection where the world slowly loaded in, pixel by pixel, and there were moments when you were convinced the internet was actually an unsolvable mystery. Enter Doom, the game that would soon change everything in and outside of gaming, creating an entirely new genre that still persists to the top of gaming this day, and a series that has had ups and downs but has been revived, and the newest entry is set to arrive May 15th. But what is the legacy of Doom? Is it horror, FPS, or pure testosterone filled ripping and tearing? In the midst of the pixelated messes and a world that was trying desperately to catch up with technology, Doom made its violent debut in 1993, and it wasn't just a game, it was a revolution. Dressed in pixelated armor, a flaming chain gun, and a soundtrack that made you wonder how much depression was necessary to create something so intense. It was something new, something different, that made people realize that games were beyond playing Sudoku on your computer. At the time, the gaming landscape was dominated by the likes of Mario, Sonic, and Street Fighter. The industry was still clinging to the 2D world of platformers and side scrollers to its detriment, where even Mario was becoming boring after stomping on the same shells 200 times. But nobody knew that first person shooters, FPS games, would one day rise from the ashes of this nostalgia like some glorious, violent phoenix. Enter id Software. These were the guys who had the audacity to take everything you knew about gaming and smash it with a chainsaw. They crafted something that wasn't just about blowing stuff up, even though that was the main appeal. It was about creating a new kind of experience, a chaotic, hellish experience where players didn't just watch, they were immersed in a world of violence, noise, and demons. A world that at the time was revolutionary and still shows its influence in nearly every corner of of gaming to this day. The original Doom wasn't just about a man with a gun. It was about the man with the gun, who had absolutely no care for personal safety. It was a game of survival, of trying to keep your head in a world where everyone was trying to tear it off. It took the action of arcade games and threw it into the grim, lonely corridors of hell itself. It didn't care about your moral compass. In fact, it gave you a grim middle finger and said, "Here, take this chainsaw and show us how you handle it." And handle it we did. But at this point, nearly the entire plot revolved around something you would not expect: a bunny. What made Doom so revolutionary wasn't just its fast paced action or its sick soundtrack, even though it was and still is great. It was its introduction of true 3D environments in an FPS format. Sure, it wasn't true 3D by today's standards, more like 3D in the same sense that a squished loaf of bread can still be called bread. But it was enough to make us feel like we were part of something greater. We were trapped in a hellscape of our own making, and we were going to gun down every last demon that dared to stand in our way. And we did it with a smile in pixelated glory. The game wasn't easy either. You actually had to think, not just know the best combos in response to other combos or point and click to type in instructions. Doom was different because it required true mindful input and tactics, health and armor management, and even weapons that you had to choose. But what the Doom guys really understood was something that most game developers today still struggle with. The game wasn't about the demons, it was about the player. Doom was an experience made for the player to feel the weight of their actions. The entire narrative, such as it was, could be summed up in two words: kill everything. But those two words resonated with gamers in a way that created something lasting. Something that was as much a cultural moment as it was a video game. The game wasn't a narrative puzzle piece like Half-Life or a marine fantasy like Halo. Rip, tear, and kill were the main things that drove Doom to start, and the loss of it is the only thing when they began to falter. As the 90s continued to rush forward, gaming began to adapt like a child that only wanted to get cooler without understanding what it really was. Doom was embraced by the mainstream, and the franchise took its first steps into a world that wasn't just about playing video games, but embracing a culture of access, violence, and rebellion. This was a time when gaming was just a niche, and then Doom made it into a cultural force. Like any good 90s icon, it had attitude. It wasn't just about playing games, it was about making a statement. And Doom's statement was clear. I'm going to obliterate you, and you're gonna love every second of it. And everybody did. And so did gaming as a whole, as Doom spawned a whole masquerade of clones and competitors alike, Duke Nukem, who have come and gone over the years. But Doom wasn't just a game, it was the spark that lit the fire for a genre. First person shooters took off, and suddenly every developer in the world was like, hey, what if we made a game where you shoot everything, and it's still not as fun as Doom? Games like Quake, Unreal Tournament followed the blueprint laid out by Doom, but none of them could ever quite match the simple elegance of the original. Doom didn't need a plot to convince you it was cool. The demons didn't need motives. The chaos didn't need reason. It just needed to be. And it was, for a long time. This is where the strange beauty of Doom lies. It was pure chaos, but within that chaos was a sense of order. There was always the right weapons for the right situation, and there was always a door to open, a hallway to run down, and a demon to obliterate. The game didn't teach you how to play. It just threw you in and said, figure it out. And while you're at it, blow up some demons. And sure, playing it now doesn't exactly feel fast paced or chaotic, but you can still see where Doom came from and why it became what it is today, and why developers had such a hard on for FPS and arena shooters from then on. By the time in the late 90s, the early 2000s had rolled around, the Doom franchise had become more than just a game. It had entered a cultural lexicon. It wasn't just about fighting demons anymore. It was about being part of a club of gamers who didn't take themselves too seriously, but also could appreciate a well-timed rocket launcher blast to the face of a cyber demon. Then came Doom 3. It was like the Doom franchise went to therapy, got some dark lighting, and started questioning its whole identity. It was slower, darker, and a lot more concerned with atmosphere than action. It was still Doom, but it wasn't the Doom people remembered. Some fans loved it. Others were just confused. What had happened to the rocket launcher? Where were all the fast paced corridors and chainsaw massacres? Doom 3 was a game that didn't understand that what people loved about the franchise wasn't just its violence, it was its unapologetic, relentless pace. The demons didn't need to be explained, they needed to be shot in the face at 90 miles per hour. But this was the downfall of Doom for a while, as fans wanted to rip and tear. But it was enough to put Doom out of practice for 12 long years, and it faded slowly into obscurity. And then, in 2016, Doom came back. But it wasn't just a return, it was an explosion. Doom 2016 reinvented the formula, blending the classic frenetic game combat with the modern game mechanics. It was the game that everybody had been waiting for, and it reminded the world why Doom mattered. It brought back the rocket launchers, the chainsaws, and the feeling of being an unstoppable juggernaut in a world full of demons. But this time it added something new. It had an attitude. It didn't just ask you to kill demons, it told you to enjoy it. It was faster, with new ways to kill and slaughter. In my opinion, Doom 2016 did what games should do if they want to stay relevant. It took the base setting, ideas, and story of their game and threw it in with new graphics, tools, a high octane soundtrack, and oh my lord, phenomenally brutal gameplay. This Doom didn't just end the world, it celebrated it, and it did so with a soundtrack that made you want to punch the ground. The game didn't care about the complexities of storytelling or character arcs. No, it was about feeling good while you laid waste to infernal realms. It was fun. That's all it had to be pure fun. This is the real legacy of Doom, fun and innovation, not being afraid to try new things in the fear of failure. Doom 3 may have strayed away, but at least it was a try at something new. But Doom 2016 and its brother don't forget the brutal world of Doom 3 and aren't afraid to show the darkness of it. But why does Doom continue to be relevant? Maybe it's because in a world that's often bogged down by its own complexity, Doom reminds us that sometimes you don't need a deep plot or a moral dilemma to have fun. Sometimes you just need a shotgun and a whole lot of demons. It also doesn't hurt that every iteration of Doom has always managed to stay true to one thing. No matter how much the world around it changed, Doom never stopped being about one thing: blowing stuff up. But if you want to blow stuff up, you want to do it eternally. So id Software blew a massive load on our forehead with Doom Eternal. This is peak Doom. The Doom Slayer is an actual demon, and this is one of the few games that allows you to feel the true power of your character within the gameplay. Doom Eternal is fast. Not just you, but the demons. They jump, they fire at rapid rates, and aren't afraid to kill you. If you won't move, you will be moved. With every blood punch and shotgun shot, Doom Eternal exemplifies Doom in every sense of the franchise. But if you refuse to engage with fast speed, you will fail. You will die. It's fast paced and not afraid of it. Every weapon, every single demon you kill, shows the power of the Mark of the Beast. From Mick Gordon's blood curdling soundtrack that follows your pace, and the weapons that constantly evolve along with your killing ability. Now we look back at Doom, and it's hard to see it as just a game anymore. It's a cultural monument, a symbol of destruction, and the beauty of simple violence. The world may never end in the way Doom foretold, but when it does, you can bet it will not be as fun as Doom made it. Sure, there'll be the slow, creeping terror of existential dread, the crushing weight of bureaucracy, and the endless paperwork that somehow holds the fabric of society together. But you know what? If we could just all grab a chainsaw and blow up some demons in the process, we might just enjoy the ride. The real Doom is the demons we killed along the way, and with Doom the Dark Ages on the cusp, I hope we can re-experience Doom again, and even if the defensive aspects are different, that we push the medium forward. And as a great man once said, bye-bye.